The Fooling of Jilf. Chapter 1. Jefyun's Ploughing. King Jilf ruled the lands that are now called Svithyud. Of him it is said that he gave to a wayfaring woman, as a reward for the entertainment she had offered him by her storytelling, a ploughland in his realm, as large as 4 oxen could plough it in a day and a night. But this woman was of the Asa race. Her name was Jefyun. She took from the north, from Jotunheim, 4 oxen, which were the sons of a giant and her, and set them before the plough. Then went the plough so hard and deep that it tore up the land, and the oxen drew it westward into the sea, until it stood still in a sound. There Jefyun set the land, gave it a name, and called it Sealand. And where the land had been taken away became afterward a sea, which in Sweden is now called Logren, and in the Malar Lake the bays correspond to the capes in Sealand. Thus Braj, the old skald, Jefyun glad drew from Jilf the excellent land, Denmark's increase, so that it reeked from the running beasts. 4 heads and 8 eyes bore the oxen as they went before the wide, robbed land of the grassy isle. Chapter 2. Jilf's Journey to Asgard. King Jilf was a wise man, and skilled in the black art. He wondered much that the Asa folk was so mighty in knowledge, that all things went after their will. He thought to himself whether this could come from their own nature, or whether the cause must be sought for among the gods whom they worshipped. He therefore undertook a journey to Asgard. He went secretly, having assumed the likeness of an old man, and striving thus to disguise himself. But the Asas were wiser, for they see into the future, and, foreseeing his journey before he came, they received him with an eye deceit. So, when he came into the burg, he saw there a hall so high that he could hardly look over it. Its roof was thatched with golden shields as with shingles. Thus says Theodulf of Hvin, that Valhalla was thatched with shields. Thinking thatchers thatched the roof. The beams of the burg beamed with gold. In the door of the hall, Jilf saw a man who played with swords so dexterously that 7 were in the air at one time. The man asked him what his name was. Jilf answered that his name was Janglir, that he had come a long way, and that he sought lodgings for the night. He also asked who owned the burg. The other answered that it belonged to their king. "I will go with you to see him, and then you may ask him for his name yourself." Then the man turned and led the way into the hall. Janglir followed, and suddenly the doors closed behind him. There he saw many rooms and a large number of people, of whom some were playing, others were drinking, and some were fighting with weapons. He looked around him, and much of what he saw seemed to him incredible. Then quoth he, "Gates all, before in you go, you must examine well, for you cannot know where enemies sit in the house before you." He saw 3 high seats, one above the other, and in each sat a man. He asked what the names of these chiefs were. He who had conducted him in answered that the one who sat in the lowest high seat was king, and hight Har. The one next above him was Jafnar, but the one who sat on the highest throne, Thryed. Har asked the comer what more his errand was, and added that food and drink was there at his service. As for all in Har's hall, Janglir answered that he first would like to ask whether there was any wise man. Answered Har, "You will not come out from here hale unless you are wiser." And stand now forth while you ask, he who answers shall sit.